Okay, so we'll talk about the Roundhouse. So, I had built CK Tower for Dennis a year earlier than the Roundhouse I built for him. And again, I was looking for something to do. I've built all the structures on my layout, and I need my locomotives to be weathered. So in exchange, I build him a structure. He weathers a bunch of my locomotives because he does a really great job. So this is not a PowerPoint presentation. This is something else that I'm going to show you, and we'll see how it goes. So this is some pictures of the Roundhouse in Winona. Dennis wanted about represent his layout about 1976 so he can operate Elcos, and there were few pictures of it, but it's by 1976 it's pretty darn ratty. And you can see the roof is collapsed in some of the pictures. You can shoot through the back window and see that the roof is collapsed in parts of, but that's exactly the way Dennis wanted to have it. Because it had been demolished and doesn't exist anymore, and I didn't have any measurements, I consulted Northwestern Historical Society has locomotive facilities, and there was a roundhouse built at the same time as the one in Winona, and there was a few some data available to it, so I could at least construct all the trusses and have it the right size, if not entirely correct. But the important thing is Dennis wanted to look sad and broken down, and we worked together, and this is how it's going to sit in his layout, and it's going to sit up against the wall. So I had to build it so we could cut through part of the building to fit it into the space available to it. And you can see on the right-hand page, there is a drawing of where it's going to sit in his layout. And at the crossing is CK Tower, which I had also built for him. And to make the whole thing work, he constructed the base out of styrofoam, the size that he wanted, and then delivered it to me. And then I started first by attaching the flooring with a styrene, and then building up the wall pieces to build the roundhouse. So I had used a material that I collected over the years. It's entirely styrene, and that's Walther's Cornerstone brick sheets that I cut apart and then fit it around windows and other parts that I needed to do. So they're San Juan, or formerly Grant Line, masonry windows that I cut apart to get the right size and shape for them. And the foundation is the sheet of Plastistruct random coarse stone. Then I started building the trusses based on the drawings that I had from the Northwestern Historical Society, and building up all the walls and trusses that I would need for the structure. And I started in the one corner, or the one end of the building, which had apparently, I'm guessing it was a machine shop with overhead cranes in it. Hence, it was taller than the rest of it. But Dennis had two requirements. He wanted the roundhouse to be removable off the base, and he wanted all the doors to open and close. Either one of those would have been easy, but doing both of them was rather difficult. And the first solution was to use those tiny little magnets that are super metals or something. I'm not sure what they are, but they're so at the corners of the roundhouse, there are little tiny magnets, rare earth magnets that hold it down so he can pick it up and clean and then put it back. Then I just started working my way around the building, putting in the sections that I'd prefabricated and attaching it as I went. Also had to, because the floor or the roof had collapsed into one section, really wanted to have the effect of all the junk that had accumulated and parts of the stuff that had fallen off the roof. So there was lots of, I just fabricated junk and weathered up the floor and made it look as much as I could like a collapsed roof. And you can see in the bottom image here, it took a village of modeling products to glue, paint, and weather the Roundhouse model. And that's all the different things that I used to make his model. Here's the finished model with the roof and all weathered up. Apparently, from the photos, there had been more stalls attached onto one side than they had just covered it up when they tore off those sections of the Roundhouse and put corrugated metal. So I had to make that work. And here's pictures along the backside, which I didn't have any of, and I had to use reference material for other similar roundhouses. So it's got a course of stone, even though that would not have been, don't know what was there. The structure's gone and nobody bothered to take pictures on the backside of the thing. Now here are the doors that can open, and I cut apart pins to make hinges so that all the doors can be opened and it can be lifted off. I didn't think that was going to be possible. It's going to back up and explain why, because you can see by the roof here, I didn't know if it was structurally going to be possible to lift up the whole piece, but there's enough strength with, even in that section with the collapsed roof, that it can be lifted off in one piece. So you guys saw the finished product, and Dennis built the turntable to go with it and the engine facility and lots of nice scenery. The one thing we discussed, I'm going to go back to the prototype photos. You can see in the pit, there are trees growing in the pit. So we don't think that in the later years, they actually turned anything on there. It was just simply a lead to get to the sand and oil facility. So the joke was that Dennis was going to build trees that could fold down, or maybe we'd even attach them onto the turntable so he could rotate it and have the trees in the pit. But I can see by the photos, he never went ahead with that.
He talked about it.
Hey, Mark, on the hinges, how did you make the hinges for the doors? You said pins.
Yeah, so
The pins had to go somehow into a hinge.
and this isn't actually the presentation I wanted to give. Turns out I didn't. I thought I had prepared a presentation, but this isn't the one. But trying to see if I can find a good picture of that. I've got other ones. So in fact, there aren't even good pictures of the doors themselves. Other than here, I've made them in the upper left, and at the outside upper corners, there's parts of a cut-off needle that stick out top and bottom, and
Okay.
they set up into the door frame, and that makes it possible to open each door
Okay.
individually.
Okay, they were stuck into the door frame. Okay.
Yeah, but there was many failed attempts, other things that did not work. But finally, that was his other requirement we were able to solve, or I was able to solve the problem. But it turned out to be a really nice model and captures the flavor of a really broken down facility.
Yeah, I got a tour of that by Dennis, and you did a marvelous job. And that would be real intimidating to try and build something to satisfy him.
But I got some nice locomotives weathered out of it too, so it was worthwhile.
Well, that's good.
If you guys would just allow me to, I'll just leave this and I will grab up what I have on CK Tower and I can show that to you then also.
Okay.
I think that because this doesn't show some of the weathering that was involved to make this, and the CK Tower does. So let's see, I'm gonna stop sharing, I guess. Go ahead and talk, and I'm gonna do what I can do here.
Oh, I want to say that Greg saved Tony Custer. Tony is one of those guys that can't do everything like anybody else. And it took a genius like Greg to get his presentation off the ground.
I'd like to hear about that. I just he
Yeah.
had it all prepared, but it didn't go.
Well, he likes to use a Macintosh, and of course they had a Windows
Oh no.
sitting there for him, so he didn't know how to get how to access his thumb drive. This is what it boiled down to. So
Oh, he didn't prepare it in both PowerPoint and the Mac format?
well, Mac
Like
will run
Keynote?
PowerPoint too. So he had everything in the right format. He just couldn't find where to find his flash drive once he stuck it into the computer.
Oh.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Now, are you seeing this or not?
We're seeing your directory.
Okay, then
Yeah, file.
I've got the file I want.
There we
There
go.
we go.
All
Yeah.
right. So a couple years back, I was looking for a new and different project, and I've completed all the structures on my model railroad, which might mean that I need to build another model railroad.
Yeah.
That's what
So-
I do.
Yeah,
No, you just gotta build replacements that you can exchange.
this is true, but I've got a very specific prototype, my hometown, and all I can do would replace one structure with a better structure. I can't build different structures. They need to be the same structures.
Detail all interiors.
You know, Lester, you sound like a guy that's
Yeah, he's been there.
likes to do that. I don't see the point if I can't see in there. That's a whole other discussion.
Right.
So the whole thing started out, Dennis wanted, when I first suggested that I build something for him, he wanted CK Tower. And this is where the Elko line crosses Milwaukee Road's line up the Mississippi River. And the tower was demolished sometime about 1986. And Dennis didn't have measurements, but he did have some photos. And again, he wanted to represent 1976, which is a cutoff year for him to allow him to use Elkos. And I did scrounge around an old copy of Northwestern Lines from 1976. And they had a drawing of a brick interlocking tower that carried a lot of the same characteristics. So I thought, well, I'm just going to use that for measurements. And I'll explain later why that was a mistake. But So CK Tower is entirely styrene. Again, I use San Juan masonry windows and cut them apart to get the right pane pattern. And then I attach trim around there with 200s by 200 styrene strip. Fabricated the stairway brackets out of 400s by 400s strip with the 8 jigs and built the sides. Then I started putting it together, and I managed to scrounge up some brick material and make a chimney. I used a Central Valley staircase and modified it, then built all the railings out of small styrene again. So for this, Dennis wanted the very weathered look that appeared in all the 1976 photos. So I decided to use a technique of paint chipping that involves hairspray. And first, I painted the model a gray color. And I did an experimental hair chipping. And you can see that on the bottom right-hand side. And I'll explain this process now of paint chipping with hairspray. So after, at the light gray, then I came back with, I grind my own Chinese ink, and I washed it over the bottle in places to get, to highlight individual boards. Then I come back with colored pencils, again, to give more character to the individual boards. Seal the whole thing with clear coat. And when that's dry, then I hit it twice with hairspray and let it dry for 15 minutes. And then I paint it with a Flowcool Boxcar Red. And once that's dried, I get a small stiff brush with water. Then I start scrubbing. And the hairspray is water soluble, but the paint isn't. So it starts flaking up, and as you scrub as much as you like until you get the weathered effect, the paint chipping. And I really like that method. It's very controllable, and you don't have to try and touch up each board by hand. And it's random, so it really covers the real effects that happen.
Yeah, that's a lot different than using the AK interactive chipping, where you have to cover that stuff with acrylics. This looks like maybe a better way.
Yeah, I happened to go online and I watch YouTube videos, and this is a technique that a military modeler uses to get paint chipping on tanks. And I thought, well, let's see if it would work here. And you'll see some other photos, and I think it really captures that paint chipping effect. And of course, I had to add some other details. There's some small buildings that always appear in the photo, so I built those for Dennis also. But now this is where things get messy. So I had built the tower, given it to Dennis, and then an acquaintance of Dennis said that he would like a model of CK Tower for 1986. Could I do that? Well, sure, I've done it once. It should be easy. But then Jason Korth, he modeled the Milwaukee Road.
Yep.
And he had a friend who had actually measured the tower, which wasn't a benefit that I had. And the tower proved to be 4 feet longer and 1 foot wider than the model I built for Dennis.
That's not so bad.
Did you tell Dennis?
Oh, I told him that, yeah. But what also turned up was a photo that we'd never seen this side of the tower here. And at some point, they decided to repaint just part of the tower. And there was another window that we never knew was there.
Oh.
So I've already shipped the model to Dennis. He cut in a new window and he painted that touch-up paint that was added. So his model does reflect a photo that I had never seen when I built the model in the first place. So now I'll talk about the model I built for Jason. Of course, here's the added window Dennis did. So it looks like the tower, even if it's not quite wide enough and not long enough either. Now this is Dennis says he built a module that in 2024 he brought it to the Northwestern Convention in Crystal Lake. And he's, if you look at the upper one, he has put in all the rotting that comes out of the tower. It's just a fabulous model, and he's got lighted signals that work.
Yeah, that was at St. Louis last year. Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. You did, yeah, I was impressed with your modeling then too.
Okay, so here is last year in Crystal Lake at the Northwestern Historic Society. Here are the two towers side by side. Now, both of them capture the way it looks, and the gray one looks even taller than Dennis's, but they're built to the same height. Apparently,
Wow.
it's like asking your wife, "Does make me look fat?" So gray paint
Wow.
makes the structure not only look taller and even larger than the 4 feet longer that it is and 1 foot wider.
Just step.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
That's
it almost looks
part
like
of
it's
a step
scale.
field.
And I used the same techniques for paint chipping on Jason's model too.
That is outstanding. That looks great.
yeah.
So I've still looking for projects, and I built a second structure for Jason, but I have not delivered that to him yet. He wants to wait until he's having the crossing custom built for him, and it's not in place yet. So he wants to show the tower in place. And just like Dennis, I built those two smaller structures that sit next to it. I did the same thing for Jason, but his is 10 years later. So they're painted differently, and Jason's is gray with more windows boarded up than Dennis's. And it turns out I went online and there is still a third guy that's built this tower, and you can see it online. So if you know of a person that needs one, I think I can get it right this time. Nice. And if Dennis is interested, I still have one more locomotive that needs to be weathered, and he does a really great job.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
an outstanding job.
yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
So that's my story. You got any questions?
Well,
How
wow.
about the hairspray? Cheap or just a
Oh,
cheap
the
lacquer
cheaper
based
the
one?
better. The cheaper the better. So
Yeah.
I try and get Aquanet because that's what my grandma used to use, Aquanet. But sometimes I got to use Tresemme, which costs more.
Yeah, I use Aquanet for the scenery.
That's a
Yeah,
good lacquer base one.
I'm not sure I remember, but the first undercoat, the part that won't scrub off, is that acrylic?
So the gray paint, and then
Base coat?
all the pre-weathering that I do with colored pencils and ink, then I seal that with clear coat.
Okay,
That
so
can't be affected. Then put the hairspray, 2
Right.
coats of hairspray, let it dry for 15 minutes, and then I can paint over it with an acrylic or lacquer-based paint, which will not be affected by the stiff brush and the water,
Mhm.
which then tends to penetrate and then start pulling out bits and pieces of it and gives that really nice chipped effect.
Right. Yeah.
When you mention the ink, is that a liquid or is that a powder?
Um,
You said the black ink.
one of my
Powder
other,
and liquid.
yeah, I wish I had probably showed you when I did the Winona Roundhouse, because in that picture of all the different products that I use to paint and weather that, I do Oriental land or Chinese landscape painting, and that involves ink. And the Chinese grind their own ink, so it comes in a stick.
Huh.
You've got a stone and you grind it in this well stone
Oh,
and
okay.
until you get however black you want to have it. So it's very controllable. So you can just grind longer. And I just discovered that's a really good way to make very dark or light. That's what you want to do, but that's how I make it.
Huh.
So I don't buy it. I grind it. It's apparently soot held together by pine sap. And it's some sort of ancient technique. And I got my products from Japan.
Ah.
In ink, stick, and stone.
Wow.
How about the roof? What was the roof shingled with?
Okay, so Micro Mart had this product that is kind of an embossed vinyl that's self-adhesive. So that's what that is on the roof there.
Okay.
Over time, it tends to release itself. So I usually add around the edges, I put down some super glue, pull up the edges, put some super glue, then press it back down, because I've got older models in which I'm constantly reattaching pieces of it. So, knowing that it's going to do that later, it's a very nice product, but that's its one flaw, is it's not self-adhesive forever.
So this represents shingles rather than roll roofing. Is that correct?
They're shingled, yeah. So it's slightly embossed.
Didn't cut them individually out of cedar. Huh?
Well, Lester, you would do that, but
No, they used to be articles about that on cigar bands.
oh,
I don't know if either of you guys remember that, but there
In
were guys
H-O?
cutting them.
Wow.
well, I remember not having money for that cedar material, because you try and get it with liners for cigars.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
I'd cut apart brown paper sacks.
Yeah, I've done that.
Yep.
Yep, brown paper sacks. It looks pretty good, actually. Yeah. So I assume the gray was the later Chicago Northwestern paint scheme, and at one time they had that mineral red scheme, I guess, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, so in 1976, it was, both paint schemes are horrible,
Uh-huh.
but only 10 years later, it was already gray and peeling.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, before they retired it, a couple years later, they re-sided it one more time. I don't know. And they used vinyl siding and even blocked up more of the windows. It's really ugly. And I hope no one wants to remodel that.
I do. I want you to make it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very nice. Yeah.
Yep. Well done.
Yeah, great modeling. Well, thank you, Mark. Appreciate you presenting that for us today, and especially since a lot of us got to see it last weekend.
And Dennis, really, his model railroad is unbelievably, he wants it to look the way that it did in 1976. So, you have to work from photos from that time period. There's, no compromises on his whatsoever. So all the rolling stock, engines, the track, all has to look 1976, and he's
Yeah.
doing a
Yeah,
fabulous job.
Yeah, I've seen photos of it. They're fabulous. So,
Yeah.
His
And with-
locomotive weathering is also outstanding.
right.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to volunteer to make models for him, so he would do something for me. And
It sounds like a good swap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
share whatever talent you got.
Yeah.
That's right. That's wonderful. We'll meet again this following week. On the 14th, we'll be off. But then I think the rest of August will be on. So we're looking for presenters. If you're interested, let me know, or you can let Ron know. But we've got openings in August. So like I say, we'll get together. We were going to be off next week, but we'll be on next week. I'm playing a piano gig and I got bumped.
Oh.
Got bumped a week. It actually works out good because I wasn't quite ready. But so anyway, that's the schedule, and this has been recorded. We'll get this up on the website this week, hopefully, because there's some people who couldn't be here tonight who are anxious to see it. So thanks again, Mark, and everybody enjoy your Thursday. We'll see you next week.
Yeah.
See you again.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Yep.